Welcome back to another video, everyone. So now that my first playthrough of Crash 4 is all up and posted, I feel like I can do other types of videos now. My review will be coming within the next few weeks. I don't want to rush it. I want to speak about everything this game has to offer. Of course, I still have a long way to go for 106% completion, and I'm going to do that off camera, but with a few highlights here and there. Some of the tough levels I'll do for the Let's Play. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to be ranking the boss fights. I know other YouTubers like Mr. Bo and ZCrazyG have already beat me to this, so I'll link their videos down below. They're two channels that you definitely want to check out if you're into Crash stuff. But Crash 4 has some solid boss fights. In fact, it doesn't have any bad ones in my opinion. So keep that in mind. The bosses at the bottom of the list, I didn't think they were bad, I just thought the others were better. That being said, let's get into it. At number 6, we have Louise. This one technically doesn't count because it's a mini boss fight, and it was quite random. I thought these mini boss fights would appear more than once, but no, this was the only one. It just takes place at the end of Jetboard Jetty. It doesn't have its own dedicated boss level. And the fact that this character is called Louise makes it even more random. You've got Engine, Neo Cortex, Dr. Embryo, Dr. Nefarious Tropy, and Louise. Despite how random it felt, I still enjoyed it. There's rats chasing you with TNT crates, so you have to avoid them, and you have to guide them around so that when Louise attacks you, she actually attacks the rats, and then she takes damage. Took me a couple attempts to beat, but for a mini boss fight, this was pretty good. And number 5, we have Embryo. Embryo's boss fight in Crash 4 was very similar to his boss fight in Crash 1. Obviously that was intentional, it's cool to see them reference that game, but it is just the same thing. You dodge his potions, fire back his mutant things, and then at the end he'll transform and come after you. Except instead of jumping on his head, this time you have a Connor to push him off the platform. It's cool that they referenced Crash 1, but it just doesn't feel completely brand new like the others did, and that's why I placed it here. At number 4, we have the first Cortex boss fight. This and the next one were very tough to rank. I didn't know which one to place in this position, but this is what I went with. The Cortex boss fight takes place in the 11th dimension, and it actually reminds me of the Cortex fight in Twinsanity. Of course, there's a lot of differences though. It's just where Cortex is positioned and the raining rockets that you have to run away from. But yeah, there's 4 stages to this, and each one gets even more difficult to the point where it's just pure chaos. Thankfully though, you have Capunawa to help you out, which makes this so much easier. But even then, I still died like 10 times. I mean, just look at this last stage, it's ridiculous. I think without the checkpoint system they introduced, these boss fights would become more annoying than enjoyable. Although there's still part of me that thinks they shouldn't have included that checkpoint system. I still haven't made my mind up about it. Just feels a bit weird respawning halfway through a boss fight after you've died, I don't know. Also, here's a challenge for anyone watching. Try to complete this boss fight without dying and without using Capunawa. At number 3, we have Engine. The reason I put this over the Cortex one is because I think it's a bit more creative with the whole Guitar Hero thing it's got going on. It's actually quite similar to the previous fight when it comes to dodging discs and firing back enemies. I also like how you have to dodge all the incoming obstacles without the help from a quantum mask. You do have to use Lanny Lolly, but that's only at the end when it comes to jumping up to attack him. That's all you really have to do, just dodge the discs, fire back enemies, and then you get a chance to attack him. You do have a time limit when attacking Engine, but you've got plenty of time. You're never going to find yourself running out. Yeah, I just thought this was a fun boss fight with a fun concept. At number 2, we have the Entropies. This one is insane. It starts off with this dimension surfing section, which has a fun little Easter egg hidden in it, which I missed the first time I played through it. Unfortunately, I found out about it before I had my second playthrough of the level. Then there's a platform hopping part where Tropy and female Tropy are firing lasers at you. You have to use a Kono and Capunawa to get across them. And this final bit is my favorite part. You have to run around this space station avoiding their attacks and lasers. Continuously flipping the gravity with Ika Ika, I can only describe it as ball clenching. I could have described it as many other things, but that's what I'm going with. Also, this boss fight has one of my favorite cutscenes. Nachos. At number 1, we have the final boss fight, Cortex. And I'm really happy I could put this here, because you want the final boss fight to be the best one, because you just played through the whole game. You want the final boss to be the biggest and the best, and that's what this was. What I love about this one is how Cortex uses the powers of all 4 masks against you. You know, you've just played through the whole game using their powers to help you, and now they're working against you. And it gave me Wrath of Cortex vibes as well, since at the end of that game you go up against all 4 elemental masks. It starts off with falling platforms and shoot-o-matics that fire off lasers, and after each round you survive, you're attacked by spinning back lab assistants. In stage 2, you go up against Lanny Lolly's powers. Basically, the platform just phases in and out, so you have to watch out for that while also dodging the lasers, of course. Round 3 is just Cortex shooting lasers at you, probably the easiest part of them all. Then Ika Ika flips you upside down and you've got to jump and duck under lasers, which surprisingly wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Every time I see Ika Ika come in, I always expect it to be difficult because of certain levels. Next up is Kapuna while speeding and slowing down time. This part can definitely cause some issues. For me, it was jumping over to the Shoot-O-Matics that caused the most trouble, but that wasn't anything compared to the last section. Econo is spinning these lasers around while the Shoot-O-Matics firing more lasers at you with falling platforms you have to look out for, and then a bunch of lab assistants start shooting at you while the laser keeps going around. This is the bit I died on the most. This just had to be my favorite boss fight. I kind of wish there was no checkpoint system in this one though. I think it would have made it more epic if you had to do the whole thing in one life. Instead, maybe they could have given you 1 or 2 free hits before making you restart. Or maybe the checkpoint system should have only been used in modern mode. I think that would have made sense. Either way, this was a really fun boss fight. The thing I love about these boss fights is that they actually feel like tough boss fights. I am aware that I've said boss fights about 500 times in this video already. It's just they're normally quite easy in Crash games, but nearly all of these gave you that real boss fight feeling. So yeah, that was my list. Let me know down below what your list would be. Again, I've linked ZCrazyG and Mr. Bo's video down below. I haven't watched them yet. I wanted to create my own list and then watch theirs and see how they compare. So I wonder how similar they're going to be. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Definitely subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you all in my next video.